podcast where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
And I sound very cheerful. Today's case isn't cheerful.
It's not.
It's awful. I probably won't preamble too much. Just know that it's hot here in the South and that we are moist.
The whole global temperature has been rising, like historical numbers, each day this week.
Good. More existential dread.
Yeah.
Yummy. I'm going to dissociate after this episode. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I am.
I do not like this case.
This case sucks, y'all.
It's been on my list of cases to cover, and I just couldn't get through the research because my stomach couldn't handle it. So kudos to you, and I'm proud of you already.
It's very rough.
Yeah, let's get this over.
And I'm going to start out by saying I'm going to take this a little aside. Mm-hmm. I have hypochondria. Mm-hmm. I know not everyone wants us to relate these cases back to ourselves, but man, this is triggering as fuck.
Yeah.
Already don't trust doctors. This isn't helping. So I would like my trigger warning today to include medical horror. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to call all of these cases, medical horror. Mm-hmm. Infant death. Pretty graphic about that as well. Infant neglect and attempted suicide. So please be aware of those things and drug abuse. Please be aware of those things as we continue on this episode. And now normally I don't like to, for the regular podcast, cover very old cases.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But this one is so famous and one of the best examples of medical murders in the history of all space and
I don't
time.
think we could have talked about this theme without this case.
No, and that's why I chose to do it. It's also been on my list. I have a list called Oh God, and that's the list where I don't want to cover this, but I probably should.
Yeah, that's a good name for the list.
It's on my phone under the folder Oh God. That's where the bills go also. So today we're talking about a woman so vile, she's been accused of being Jack the Ripper. Amelia Dyer was a nurse in the Victorian era in London and in Bristol. It is suspected that she killed up to 400 babies, making her a candidate for the world's most prolific serial killer.
Ever.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty shocking to me because mostly, you don't hear about women serial killers too often.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But man, when you do, they're nurses.
Right? I mean, not all the time, but most of the time, yeah.
Or caregivers of some kind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, again, in a lot of these cases, it's Munchausen or Munchausen by proxy. It is fucking not in this case. Mm-hmm. I don't believe murder was her main motivation. It was money. But
she's so cold and heartless.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. So Amelia was born in 1837 as Amelia Elizabeth Hobley in Pile Marsh, Bristol, England. She was the youngest of 5 children. Her father was kind of a famous shoemaker, and so they weren't poor, and that's kind of a rarity for the time because everybody was poor back then.
Yeah.
Like now. Oh, how yes. But because of this, she was given an education and learned to read and write and developed a love for poetry. And she was kind of all set up for kind of an idyllic childhood, if we're going to be honest. However, her mother came down with typhus. Now, I didn't know a lot. I know about typhoid, but I didn't know a lot about typhus.
Oh, I thought it was the same thing.
It is not the same thing. They're caused by different strains of bacteria.
Educate me.
I'm about to educate you, girl.
Please, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a praise kink. I know you do.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, I do.
You're very good.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And sorry if I'm very jokey this episode. It's the only way I'm getting through this shit because I want to throw up. Okay, so typhus is caused by a bacteria that comes from either the feces or the bite from fleas, lice, ticks.
Gotcha.
Bed bugs, that sort of thing. Gotcha. And in Victorian England, you have to understand everybody's in these row houses. They're all crammed together. Sanitation. Mm-hmm. What sanitation? We're just going to dump our shit out the window.
I was about to say pee pee poo poo in the streets. And
it was.
The River Thames is like not really a river.
Oh, do I get to talk about the Thames again? Yes, I do. One of my favorite historical facts is during the late 1800s, the River Thames became so polluted that they called it the Great Stink. And that is because they was dumping all their trash in there, all the pee-pee poo-poo in there, dead bodies. And it was just... They called it the Great Stink because the smell was so powerful. You had to go all the way out, way into the country to escape it. And the smell wasn't just a smell. It also brought cholera, typhus, and typhoid with it. And man, the only thing, and the reason you have the Great Stink is because this is around the time plumbing was invented. I mean, let's be clear. They had plumbing in like Göbekli Tepe or some shit.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Ancient people had plumbing on lockdown.
For real. Yeah.
British people. I shake my head at us white folks, yes, because what are we doing? We're just throwing the boo-boo in the road? No, we'd put the boo-boo in a hole at the very least, but they did not do that. So anyway, everyone gets a flushing toilet, right? And so what happens? It overwhelms the sewage system in London that was already there to the point where this raw sewage is just spilling into the Thames. And it was quite fucking gross.
Yeah, it wasn't really liquid at that point. It was like sludge and body parts and decay.
Just vile. You cannot imagine the horrific stench. So I just am setting the scene because I think we all have this idea and this picture in our head of Victorian England as like everyone is in these stately outfits and we're all very proper and very prim. Y'all, they was stanky. They were so stinky.
It was like a grime on everything is what I picture.
Here's the thing. You didn't really wash your clothes.
No.
Because... How? And if you did, you used a lye soap, and this shit was so caustic, it would raise up blisters on your hands, but of course that's the women's work. It would also eat into your clothes, so you couldn't wash them very often. If you had a stain, like any kind of stain, grass, dirt, blood, whatever, you can't use a Tide Pod or one of them little Clorox pins. They used piss, their own piss. There was no deodorant. Hygiene was not, I mean, look, they just got plumbing. You think they taken a bath every day?
If they did wear wigs, it was infested.
Well, that's earlier, before the Victorian period.
Right, I forgot.
Yeah, we're talking about during Marie Antoinette's time. They would like use flour and water as a way to hold the hairstyles in place, the wigs. And they had special servants that would sit by the wigs all night to make sure rats wouldn't eat it. And the ladies had them big poofy cupcake dresses. You ain't taking all that shit off to poo or pee. So they had servants come around with a little bucket and you just pissed standing up right there in the middle of the hall. Some of them would just poo-poo and walk off. And I just think, my God.
And that's supposed to be like a height of civilization at that point.
Y'all playing me.
Yeah.
That's...
I would have just ran into the forest at that point.
Oh, I'm living in the woods. Fuck y'all. So back to typhus. Typhus can affect several major organs. It can affect your kidneys, your lungs, but most importantly, your brain. And it the fevers and everything caused a horrible delirium. Y'all may not know this, and I just found this out from Reddit. I'm full of facts today.
I love it. It's delicious.
Bed bugs, in some cases, if the infestation is severe enough, can cause an allergic reaction in a person from all the bites, and that can make you literally go insane. It impairs cognitive function so much that you will have huge gaps in your memory. Let me tell you the story I read on Reddit real quick because it's so fascinating. So this was on Reddit, and I can't remember which Reddit board I was on, like relationship advice or legal advice. That's where I love that one. It's a good one. It's juicy.
I'll have to get
and
in
this woman was talking about how she felt like her boyfriend was assaulting her and drugging her. He was a doctor. She would have these huge gaps in her memory, but would wake up with evidence of sexual activity. And this had been going on for months. And so she finally called him out on it. And of course, he broke up with her and wouldn't speak to her. Through the comments and asking her questions, it was discovered she had a massive bed bug infection and that it was affecting her cognitively, that she was losing her memory.
Oh my God.
Right.
It just makes me think of like inner city places that still have bed bugs today, like
because they become resistant to poisons, and how many people are affected by this.
I don't mean to just say inner city. I just want to scratch that because it's not obviously just
urban areas in general.
Well, you get it a lot with like hand-me-down stuff and
thrift stores, garage sales, marketplace.
I remember I had gotten a couch one time given to me, and it had bed bugs in it, and a friend of mine got just covered in them. because I didn't sleep on the couch, but we had a guest over. And
that sucks so much. It's so scary.
I had no idea that it does that.
Yes.
But like, girl, now that I know, I can think back at all the different times
Medical
that I've known
horror.
people to have bed bugs, and that could have possibly happened to them. That's terrifying. That bugs can do that to you.
Well, typhus is brought to you by bugs. It's a bacteria in their mouth parts and feces. So anyway, Amelia's mother came down with typhus.
I'm really.
Now, if you get typhus today, they give you a bunch of antibiotics and you're fine.
Right.
Didn't have that back then.
Right.
And the type of typhus that Amelia's mother got is 60% fatal if left untreated.
Right. And yeah.
And what's crazy about it, even after the disease has run its course, the infection has run its course, it can still kind of flare up. And so her mother would have these violent delirious fits. And it was Amelia who was stuck taking care of her. And anybody who researches this case, and lots of people have, there's lots of good documentaries on it. I'll link a couple. Have noted that it was likely during this time that things went wrong in Amelia's brain.
Is she like a teenager at this point?
She's young. I think she's in her early teens. Yeah, late teens, around there.
She's developing.
Yeah, during her developmental times and having to be the sole provider for somebody who's flipping out and having violent fits and delusions. It was very hard on her. It was very hard on her.
I'm sure it's traumatizing.
It was traumatizing. Not that that's any excuse for what she does.
No.
But yeah, the high fevers gave her this delirium, and even after it passed, it had clearly like damaged her brain. And she took care of her mother until her death in 1848. So it's a bad time. She died from the typhus infection as well. But it was kind of a drawn out death. It was really brutal. It was really brutal. After the death of her mother, Amelia went to live with an aunt and became an apprentice corset maker. She lost 2 sisters before they reached the age of 6, and I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Because we forget that infant mortality in the Victorian era was ridiculous. If you had 3 kids, it'd be a miracle one would make it to the age of 6.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened to her sisters. So, her mother died. Her sisters are dead. She has a falling out with one of her brothers, and I couldn't figure out what happened. And she marries at the age of 24 George Taylor, who was 59. And I just really think it shows that she kind of became the parent figure in her house. Her father was older too. And so she got the parentification, it's called. It's when you turn your child into a parent to caregive an adult or another child in a house.
Right.
And that can really mess people up. And I do think that's part of what went wrong with Amelia. It's part of what made her callous, I think.
Right.
It certainly didn't do her mental health any favors whatsoever.
And definitely built a resentment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. So they both lied about their ages to make the age gap less conspicuous.
Really?
Yes,
to each other or to the paperwork?
To the paperwork people, to the clerk when they got their marriage license. This made research later really difficult because it was confusing on how old she actually was.
Oh,
because she aged herself up.
Yeah,
and he aged himself down.
Yeah.
So with the record keeping, it made things very confusing. It's just a little tidbit I like pointing out. After getting married, Amelia went on to become a nurse. She went to nursing school, and that was one of the only jobs you could get that was considered respectable in the Victorian era for women.
Absolutely.
Women were not encouraged to work. They were usually looked down on for working, but if you were a nurse, that was a good shit. Right. That was a good shit. It was a prestigious job. As a nurse, she met a woman named Ellen Dane, who was a midwife. And it was from Dane that Amelia learned about baby farming. And I doubt that's what they called it back then, but angel maker is another term that was used. And in this case, it was very literal, but that's okay. So what the fuck is baby farming? It was a common practice in the late Victorian era. Poverty was a real issue, and having a baby out of wedlock was very, very, very frowned upon in Victorian society. It ruined you as a woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were done. No one would marry you. You could not get a job. And so most of the time, unwed mothers were relegated to sex work.
Yeah. And it would also destroy your family's reputation as well.
Yes. They could lose money and jobs over this.
Big deal. It just hindsight, it's real stupid.
It is real stupid.
But yeah.
It didn't help, too, that there was a law called the Poor Law Amendment Act, and this saw to it that men were not required to provide for any children they fathered.
What?
Thus, women without the support of the father had little recourse when having a baby out of wedlock.
What was it called again?
It was called the Poor Law Amendment Act.
The Poor Law. That's such a weird thing.
Well, the men were considered more pitiable than a woman. A woman's the lowest rung.
Oh,
on
you
the
don't
social...
want the men to go poor because they're taking care of
That's
the children
right.
that they see.
That is correct.
That
It would cause them financial hardship.
Oh.
So it created a whole
that makes me mad.
Yeah, it should. It created a whole subclass of people in Victorian England, which was unwed mothers.
Yeah.
And there was nothing more frowned upon.
Yeah.
And so now they have nothing. They have no support from the dad. The only way they can get support is blackmail. Like legit blackmail was huge back then because of this shit.
Yeah.
Often they would pay. So here's what they would do. They would either pay a lump sum or they would pay a fee over time to a woman, usually a married woman, and she would take in their child, either foster them till they could reclaim their child, or they would adopt the child out or adopt it as their own child.
Right.
And this became known as baby farming because naturally this came with lots of abuses. And Amelia saw it as a fine way to make money fast.
Because people are desperate.
Yeah. They are. She's preying on desperate women.
Yes.
Disgusting. There were laws in place designed to protect these children, but Amelia just fucking ignored them. You had to register every baby that came to live in your home, but she didn't do this. It was more profitable, especially in cases of lump sum payments, to have the baby die rather than care for it and adopt it out. And sadly, many infants born to unwed mothers met this fate at baby farms. She was not the only one to do this, let's be clear. In fact, the practice was never good. There's not any good baby farmers. They all had infants die in their care, usually due to neglect and abuse.
Yeah.
And sometimes just straight up murder.
Yeah.
There's like a list of 6 of the most notorious baby farmer murders. 6. And you'd think, well, they'd outlaw the practice right away. And you'd be wrong. We'll get to that in a minute.
They don't care.
Yeah, it just sucks. The practice was almost stopped entirely by 1939 due to changes in adoption law. But after World War II, many, many white families took in African children. And the process started back up. Now, it's no longer practiced today, thank God. But that of course you throw racism into it too, and the stealing of indigenous people's babies. Because white people sure fucking love doing that.
Girl, don't even get me started on stealing people and adoptions.
Yeah, Willow understands it happened to her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, not to get too political on you, but it is a political issue.
I hate that human rights are political issues.
Shouldn't be, but it is.
No,
That's
they're
the
not
world we
opinions.
live in. No, and that, of course, is wrong. We can all agree, I think, together, that baby farming is fucked up. It's especially fucked up if you go to another country, use all your guns and your force, and then steal people's children and send them to live in another country where they're only going to be neglected and abused and kept around for the novelty. My God. Everyone who did that's in hell. So, yeah. So Amelia hears about this baby farming, and it's something she wants to get into. She had, more than entertaining the idea, she was kind of forced into the idea because her husband George lost his job, and then he died in 1869. She had just had a baby named Ellen, and so she had no way to get any income.
Right.
And so so a lot of women who were baby farmers or angel makers, whatever you want to call them, got into this because there was literally no other recourse. Poverty.
They're just as desperate as the women bringing them babies.
Absolutely. But desperation and poverty like this is not going to breed good results.
God damn.
And I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
She advertised herself as a respectable woman, a married woman, even though she was widowed, that would house unwed expectant mothers, and then she would nurse and adopt the babies from the unwed mothers for a fee and some clothes for the baby. It's not known if she started out murdering her charges right away or if she kind of fell into it, because a lot of times when people would bring an infant to one of these baby farmers, the baby's already not in good shape.
Right.
because they can't afford to provide for their kid. They can't afford even to feed themselves, so their baby is starving.
Yeah.
And so these sickly babies are brought in, and many of them did just die, and there wasn't anything anyone could do about it, especially with all the disease, lack of hygiene, and lack of resources.
Right.
So it could be that, you know, she takes in this person's child. They're desperate. She takes the money and the baby died. And that's how she realized, oh, well, it's much more profitable to just kill them. In 1872, she married again, this time to William Dyer, who she had a daughter, Polly, and son, William Samuel. She left her husband shortly after the children were born, and she stopped and started baby farming a few times in the nearly 30 years of murdering babies. But after leaving her husband, she was keen to take it up again. Before, she had just been letting the babies starve to death. She put them on filthy cushions or in disgusting cribs and doped them up with alcohol or opium, both of which were readily available at drugstores at the time. One tincture was called Mother's Friend and claimed to soothe fussy babies, but it really just knocked them out with opium. This resulted in a baby that was no longer interested in food, and while no, they weren't crying, they were slowly starving to death. But now she needed more income, and starvation was going too slowly. Amelia started overdosing them on opium outright. So she would just give the baby enough to make them OD, basically. Yeah.
They'd last a few minutes.
Yeah. But even this would be too slow for her.
Disgusting.
In 1879, she finally came under suspicion by the police. Each death of an infant under her care was certified by a doctor so that they would take the body away.
I was about to ask what was happening with their bodies.
Oh, it gets real here in a minute. This doctor became suspicious that he was coming to her house so often to certify the deaths of babies. She was arrested after a short investigation, but not for murder. She was arrested for child neglect, and she was only sentenced to 6 months hard labor. She served her time, and once out of prison, Amelia tried to resume her nursing career. But with her record, and because of her age, and because she was separated from her husband, she could not find work.
It's so stupid.
I mean, part of this is you have to ask yourself, if the situation were better for her, would she have done this at all? And I honestly don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I can't answer that question.
She did this all for money.
Yes, she did.
Had she had the money, she probably wouldn't have.
She would have no motivation.
Yes.
I mean, she did later confess to enjoy watching them die.
Right, but that must have been after, you know.
Doing it a couple hundred times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You become desensitized. I'm just really horrified in general by the environment this case is in.
Right.
It's so terrible.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah. There were cracks in her mental health, too. She spent a couple stints in a mental hospital after her release from prison, and I'm sure a part of it was that she was worried she was turning into her mother.
Yeah.
That she was losing her mind, and she did have one serious suicide attempt. After her release from prison, she was the governess of a wealthy woman's baby. She was also abusing alcohol and narcotics during this period of her life, and her addiction issues likely began when the baby farming did.
Yeah.
She's giving these babies opium. I'm sure she's taking some for herself to get through the trauma of killing babies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't imagine anyone so absolutely cold and bereft of that much empathy to not even get a twinge of like, oh, this is unpleasant.
Or like for it to not affect their psyche at all.
I just think it's wrong to think it doesn't, even if they keep doing it and aren't sorry.
Absolutely.
I think it's traumatic event for both the victim and the perpetrator every single time.
Absolutely.
It really rewires the brain in very nasty, unpleasant ways, and I think that's what was going on.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think she gave a shit about the babies.
No.
She was killing them the moment she started this shitty business. I think it was a deeply disturbed woman who self-medicated with drugs and alcohol. I don't think she had much, if any, empathy for the lives that she snuffed out mercilessly. And man, it takes a pretty cold person to watch a baby starve to death.
Yeah.
I can't even let a cat starve to death, which I'll talk about at the end of this episode.
Oh.
We're plagued with cats over here.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Her career as a governess ended when the wealthy mother became suspicious of Amelia. So she checked for her baby's birthmark. It was on his hip. When she checked, it wasn't there. Now, that implies that Amelia had killed her actual baby and replaced it with one from her baby farm. In order to get out from under the suspicion and dodge police, Amelia then had several nervous breakdowns. And it's not at all clear if she were faking them or they were legitimate. The police thought she was faking them, but this is Victorian police.
Yeah.
So I don't fucking know.
She's just hysterical. Give her a dildo.
My God.
Well, that's what they said.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
I hate this woman.
It's not going to help when I'm hysterical.
No.
No, and neither will chocolate. Leave me alone. I mean, if you want to send chocolate, go right ahead.
Yes, I
but
like
no dildo,
chocolate.
please. I'm good. No. Shortly after losing her job as a governess, Amelia drank 2 bottles of laudanum in an attempt to end her own life. I do think this is because she thought she was going to get caught.
Yeah.
And she was trying to take the easy way out on this one. However, the police didn't really believe the wealthy governess. Like, nothing came of this. And I am shooketh. Why not?
Right?
I think they just thought, oh, hip, hip, it's just a hysterical
lady
woman.
problems.
Oh, Marge just had a bit of the old hysteria.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I wasn't any good. I don't know where I went away. My brain made the window shut down noise.
I did that several times today.
Yeah, just glitching out, man. Yeah, but because she'd been an opiate addict for so long, her tolerance had been built up so much she did not die.
Wow.
2 bottles of poison, but we're good. We're good.
That was just a Friday night.
Just me and my poison. Amelia felt she had no choice but to return to baby farming to survive. Her mental health and her addiction issues were out of control, and she was desperate for money. Now, even overdosing the babies on opium took too much time and too many resources. So Amelia murdered them immediately after they came into her care, and this time she asphyxiated them with dressmaker's tape. Wow. She wrapped it around their necks until they died.
And this is when you get to, like, actual murder, because not that she wasn't actually murdering
she
before,
was actually murdering,
but when the coroner or whatever has to come and view the body and
oh no, we don't have none of that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. Well, you can't with the tape around their neck.
No. So yeah, she realized what a mistake she'd made in having a doctor certify each child's death, so she started disposing of the bodies herself.
Where did she take them?
Amelia began dumping the bodies of the infants she killed into the River Thames.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Still, the specter of suspicion haunted her. Police were watching, and families that had asked her to foster their babies until they could care for them themselves came looking for their children. In order to avoid more jail time, Amelia would move herself and her own children off into different towns where she would use an alias and where she could run new ads and no one would know who she was.
Wow.
Here she would continue her infanticide until she once more fell under suspicion and had to move and use her new name again. In January of 1896, a woman named Evelina Marmon, a barmaid who was very well known and very popular, gave birth to a baby girl she named Doris at a boarding house. Evelina wasn't married and wasn't making enough money as a barmaid to support a child. She fully intended to reclaim her as soon as she could afford to. Evelina put an ad in the paper looking for a couple to foster her baby so she could work and so the child could have a happy and comfortable upbringing while she got her life together. Her ad in the Bristol Times and Mirror simply read, "Wanted, respectable woman to take a young child." When her ad was published, Evelina noticed that right next to it was one wanting a child from a respectable married couple. So Evelina responded to this ad, and Mrs. Harding responded back. Except there wasn't a Mrs. Harding. It was Amelia Dyer. And her response was as follows. "I should be glad to have a dear baby girl, one I could bring up and call my own. We are plain, homely people in fairly good circumstances. I don't want a child for money's sake, but the company and home comfort. I and my husband are dearly fond of children. I have no child of my own. A child with me will have a good home and a mother's love." So Evelina met with Amelia and offered to pay a recurring fee for the care of her daughter because she thought, well, this one-time fee, I want to get her back.
Right.
So I'll just pay for her care, and you look after her for me. I'll send money. But Amelia insisted on a one-time fee. She refused any other
She didn't want her to
form of
keep
pay.
up with it.
No, of course not. She wouldn't accept anything else. And though Evelina was surprised at how old Amelia was affectionate with her daughter Doris. So Evelina paid her £10 and gave Amelia a cardboard box with baby clothes in it. She left Doris with Amelia, feeling confident that her daughter would be well cared for. A few days after returning home, sad and distraught over having to give up her daughter, Evelina received a letter from Amelia saying, "Hey, all is well, the baby's doing great." So Evelina anxiously wrote back, but never received a reply. And I can't imagine how scary that was for her. Because a lot of people covering this wonder how Amelia was able to get away with this for so long. 400 is a crazy number.
Right.
The answer is these women were too ashamed and too afraid to go to the police.
Yeah, what could they do?
They're already treated like less than livestock.
And especially for having the children.
They're not going to be believed or listened to.
Or cared about.
But everything wasn't well. Little Doris was already dead.
Yeah.
She had strangled her with dressmaker's tape. She rolled the body in a napkin, pawned most of her clothes, and took in another child just a couple days later. This was a little boy named Harry Simmons. He was only 13 months old. She didn't have any more dressmaker's tape to strangle him with, so she cut some from around Doris's neck and killed him with this.
Oh my God.
She put both bodies in a carpet bag she weighed down with bricks, and she sunk them in the Thames. But little did Amelia know that several days before, on March 30th, 1896, the body of a baby girl who was later identified as Helen Fry was pulled from the Thames. Forensic science was still in its infancy, but this is so cool. Detectives, using a microscope, which had not long ago been invented, on the wrappings the babies had been in, were able to come up with the name Mrs. Thomas and an address which took them directly to Amelia Dyer. And since she had a record, they knew that she had done this.
That's interesting.
But they would need more evidence.
Yeah.
So what the police did is they used a young woman as a decoy to set up a meeting with Dyer in her home. Like the decoy said, "I have a baby I need you to take care of." So Amelia greedily took the bait, and when the time of the appointment came around, she opened the door, but not to a young girl. It was to detectives. And I love that. They came in and were immediately overwhelmed by the odor of human decomposition, though they found no human remains inside. They did find telegrams that discussed adoption deals and payments, pawnbroker tickets that showed the sale of baby clothes, and letters from mothers asking about their baby's welfare, which is so sad. Police concluded that during this last stretch of baby farming, over 20 children had come into her care and not a one survived. At this rate, it is calculated that she could have and most likely killed over 400 infants in the 3 decades she did the baby farming. And y'all, this makes her the most prolific serial killer in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Amelia was arrested on April 4th, just 2 days after murdering little Harry Simmons. Amelia confessed to police and told them that they could identify any babies they found if they were killed by her by the white dressmaker's tape that would be around their necks. 6 more bodies would be pulled from the Thames in the month of April. Evelina Marmon identified the remains of her daughter Doris later that month.
Oh, honey.
Amelia Dyer was found guilty of murder and executed on June 10th, 1896 by hanging.
Yeah, she was. That picture of her is so fucking scary.
Oh, she's a scary bitch. I don't like her. Police have but people have suggested, like people who make theories and stuff, that she's Jack the Ripper.
How?
Oh, there's no evidence for this at all.
I just don't think she would have time with all the babies to go
all the
around
baby murder.
killing.
No. She was a nurse, yes, but she wasn't a surgical nurse. She would not have had the expertise required. I still think it was either a doctor or somebody who dissected bodies or something.
Yeah.
She never killed grown women.
Yeah.
Because she only killed helpless babies. She wouldn't kill someone who could fight back.
Or somebody she had to drag around, you know?
That was not her MO. It is believed that her daughter, Polly, kept the business going up to 2 years after Amelia's execution.
Wow.
A baby was found wet and in bad shape inside a parcel by railway workers. Police later determined that this was a baby given up for adoption to a Mrs. Stewart, which was one of Polly's aliases from the time she was working with her mother, Amelia. This has never been proven, and because Amelia had written a letter from prison saying that Polly had nothing to do with any of the murders, Polly was never charged.
Wow.
Though it's pretty clear from research that she was not only an accomplice, but likely participated in the murders with her mother, too.
That's so fucked.
Yeah, she tried to kill her own children in, like, violent fits of rage. Amelia did, William and Polly.
That was kind of in the back of my mind, this whole case. Is
She's
like,
very abusive to her kids.
Yeah, how would she treat these
Not
other
good.
people's children with her own children in the house?
Threats. Lots of threats of killing them and violence.
Yeah.
And if you ever
Blackmail.
talk, I'll kill you. You've been helping me, so you're just as guilty. There was a
Yeah.
lot of that going on. I didn't cover the kids too much because the information is a lot of theories and not a lot of evidence.
Speculations.
It's a lot of speculation. Except in the case of Polly, I think it's pretty clear that she participated
Yeah.
and was in on the business. Completely warped by her sick mother.
Well, and you also have to think about, like, besides all of the trauma and, you know, mental health issues she was probably going through, what other choices did she have financially after her mother was, you know?
She went back to what she knew.
Well, I mean, like, she couldn't go get a job anywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
everybody would know who she is.
They did, because this is one of the most notorious trials in Victorian era London
And
history.
everybody goes to these trials. Like, these are like public
they were spectator
speculations.
events, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And her hanging was just a
everyone
big
was there
fucking
for
deal.
it.
Yeah.
Oh man, public executions is something I don't understand.
I don't know why
Never want to
anybody-
see that shit.
I mean, maybe if I had like some sort of connection to the person and
Even
I wanted
then.
them dead, but I wouldn't bring my
no.
children.
People brought their kids and they had snacks and shit.
Yeah, it was like a full family affair type thing.
I never want to see somebody die in a violent manner. It would fuck me up. I've seen enough people die that I cared about, and that's good. I'm good. I don't need to see that shit. But it was a different time, and I don't think I'll ever understand.
It's a very strange custom.
You want to know what else is a different time? Fucking business time.
It's business.
It's business time. Yes, it is. I'm trying different transitions. All of them are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, over the past couple weeks, I'm going to tell you all this fun story. I might have told it before. I don't know. I don't got no memory. But yeah, so I was driving home and I was on our road that leads to our house and I saw some movement in the grass and I knew it was a kitty cat. And I'm a dope. I have to stop.
Yeah.
And I just felt like in the force that this kitty cat needed help. And sure enough, when the kitty stepped out, it looked exactly like the cat we had just adopted. Mm-hmm. Like a little gray kitten. Mm-hmm. And me and Maris were like, how did our cat get out?
Yeah.
No, this is how identical this cat was.
Yeah.
Same size, same color. And so we picked her up and we're like, oh, Kitty, how did you get out?
And as soon as you pick her up, she does the exact same things that Moggy does.
Yes, she like climbed on my shoulder and like was purring and headbutting. And I was like, oh,
booby-sitting.
Kitty. And booby sitting. She loves to sit on the boobies. But then we got home and there's Moggy. And I was like, well, what is happening? But this little baby was starving. Once we could feel of her, you could feel all her little bones. She flinches every time you try and pet her because somebody abused her. So what am I supposed to do? Well, I have another cat is the answer. And if you would like to help me, I've already nursed her back to health, but she does need to go to the vet so that she can get checked out, make sure she doesn't have feline AIDS or feline leukemia. I don't want to endanger my other cats.
Right.
And this is expensive and not a bill I was counting on because I didn't want any more pets, obviously.
Right.
I have tried to find her home. Nobody's interested, and I can't just put her out because she's precious. And now she's so healthy, and she just wants to play with the other kitties so bad. So if you want a reading from me, I'm doing a special on those. I will be linking that in the description. I do tarot reading, nearly 30 years experience. Or you just want to help me out. I would appreciate that because, man, is very triggering for my health anxiety this entire month. I'm just like, I didn't think it would be. I'm always surprised when I get really affected by like some of the research. Like, because I don't think that I will, but then when I'm doing it, I'm just like, oh, I'm sweaty.
Yeah.
This makes my tummy hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
This next case that I'm doing is really fucking me up right now.
you told me a little about it,
Yeah.
and I am already shook. I'm already afeared.
Palm sweaty, mom spaghetti.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
It's going to be a really crazy case. You
It's
guys
fucked
need
up,
to
guys.
tune into
Yeah.
that.
Like, you thought Dr. Death 1 and Dr. Death 2 were fucked up.
I did think they were fucked up.
Dr. Death 3 is just what the fuck.
Yeah, this month has some really interesting cases throughout all the world and all of history, and
And
that's
it's not cases that we're used to covering, which is like violent deaths, things like that.
assault usually.
Yeah. There's no assaults in
There's
these.
something about it that's so detached and so cold that it
And
really gives me the
clinical.
creeps.
And clinical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And there's no violence and gore, so it's just like very like, I don't know. It's interesting.
It is interesting, and I'm going to carry on the theme a little bit this month in Patreon. I will be doing, my next case I'm doing is the Scott Peterson case.
Right.
I'm not covering the case. I'm covering the defense's allegations of wrongdoing by the prosecution and things ignored by the police, and I'm going to dismantle it because it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And if you guys would like to listen to that, that will be on our Patreon on our $5 tier. I'm also going to be covering Dr. Jack Kevorkian this month, who is called Dr. Death, but he's not a murderer. He helps people die with dignity.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, but he got in a lot of trouble in the 90s, if you
Yeah.
remember. He got arrested several times because he believes people should have the right to choose if they have a terminal illness, whether they
Yeah.
want to suffer or they want to die with their dignity.
Yeah.
I'm fully supportive of death with dignity.
Same.
I will sign every
That's
petition.
your ham that you're in. Like, you get
That's
to choose.
right. And if you wonder what the fuck you say a ham, we call bodies hams, and it's a long.
It's meat sack.
It's your meat.
your meat
That's your
sack.
ham. Yeah. You little honey roasted ham.
I got-
It's stupid.
It is honey roasted ham back here. My
Yeah,
God.
I'm smuggling a couple of hams back here.
You are listening to two girls with some dump trucks, and it is hard to get around.
Titties and ass. Titties and ass. They sweaty.
It's so hot, y'all, in the South.
Like,
man.
listen.
There was
I
a
should-
lady in Houston that baked bread in her mailbox, and it took not even 2 hours.
45 minutes.
45 minutes, that's what it was, yes.
Girl, that's
Right?
too hot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine carrying around all this ass in this heat?
It's not okay. So we've been indoors.
But like we're sitting in here in an unair conditioned room, and y'all, I am marinating. Just know that I'm marinating right now, and it's gross.
I changed my next Patreon case. I was going to do the Yorkshire Ripper, and I've just been doing serial killer after serial killer,
we're
and
done
it's
with
just
that shit for a
I'm
minute.
really I need to. But the next I stumbled across this story, and it's wild. It's from 2020 during lockdown. This woman just got mad and stabbed her husband a few times, and it's got a really intense 911 call and body cam footage over some food, and we'll get into it. But it was just
Don't touch my fucking food.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff lined up for Patreon this month, and I'm going to tease this now, even though it won't be until fall. But
What?
guys, we're going to be doing a live show this fall.
You really okay?
We won't be doing the one in the auditorium, but
Okay.
I'm doing some ghost tours again a couple days a week because we're
Right.
desperately poor,
Right.
and I like telling stories anyway. And so the shop that we're doing it from has offered us up the space to do some live shows.
So we can do some smaller live shows more often, like maybe once a month.
Yes, that's
and
what we're
then
thinking about.
eventually we really want to have a drag night.
Yeah, and
performance.
a sex worker history kind of thing. I'm
Because our
excited
town is
about it.
built on Victorian
work.
sex workers.
Yes, it is.
So we wanted to tell their story and have drag
Some
about
fun.
it.
Have some fucking fun. Yeah, and these events, because you're like, hey, I'm not in Arkansas, I don't care. We will be live streaming them
Yeah.
on our Patreon. So, and I'm anticipating doing our first one in September.
Okay.
So y'all want to get on the Patreon train now if you can, because I've got so many exciting things planned for this summer and fall, including we are going to do a live ghost hunt, or I will die.
And we're going to be doing seances soon.
We will be doing seances. all
That's
kinds
something
of
we
fun
used to
stuff.
do all the time.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
It's just kind of like nostalgic for us.
Let's sit around with some candles and scare the piss out of each other. It's super fun. So I want y'all to be there for all of this. So join our Patreon so you can be a part of Also, I just want to say our patrons are just the coolest people in the entire world. And not just because they're our patrons. They're just genuinely good people.
Yeah, and they've been really good to us.
They've been so nice.
Yeah.
And you will be joining a community of some of the most amazing women you will ever meet in your entire life.
There's men and non-binaries in there, too.
There are too, but like some of them ladies, just I'm in awe of them and their amazingness. Alicia.
I know, girl.
Amber. Holly. I'm going to shout them out. So come join our Discord too, because you don't have to be a patron to join our Discord. And that's where we kind of come say hi.
Yeah.
Don't be scared.
Someone came in the other day and was like, "Oh my god, I'm fangirling." And I was like,
do
"No
that.
shit, I'm fangirling."
Right?
Like,
No, you.
yeah, this is really exciting. Thank you for listening. This is
I can't
great.
afford to take my cat to the vet. No need to fangirl. I'm in a dumpster.
Right.
Yeah, but I know. I appreciate it so much. I don't want to like take my negative self-talk and like invalidate somebody's feelings.
Right.
'Cause that feels shitty, right? But no, we're just average people, and you can talk to us. We're not famous. It's fine.
Yeah. Don't be nervous.
Come hang out. Yeah. we have a good time in the Discord. So that's, I'm not done with business time. I had other things. Oh my God, it's flown out of my head. There it is. Come back. There.
Oh wow!
Jesus
I saw that all happen.
Did you see it all happen in real time?
It's like
the
whirling
confused
around.
face and smoke coming out of my ears. So we're running kind of a little contest here.
Yes.
If you become a patron this month, and that's $5 and up, I'm going to enter you in a contest, okay, to win what? $100 worth of art and cool shit. So, become a $5 and up patron. I will draw your name. I will announce the winners at the end of the month. I love doing these giveaways, by the way. They're very fun. Another one is leave a nice review.
And screenshot it.
And screenshot it. Email it to the Cruelty email, which is in the link tree. And then we will also enter you into a contest to become a patron. I will send you $5. Yeah. And you can stick it up your butt, buy ice cream, or become a patron. It's all
or
up
if you're
to you.
already a patron, you can put it towards your $5. Because I know that a lot of people have already submitted or have reviewed, and so yeah, it might help.
So if you've done it in the past, please just screenshot your review.
Yeah, if you've already left a review, just send that to us.
I mean, I guess I'll put mean reviews in the hat, but I feel sad, so please don't.
No, 5 stars, please. If you have anything below a 5-star rating, email us so that way we can
address the issue, because we can't get
We're not
better.
Perfect.
No,
We're
and
not
if it's something like don't be political, I just think the nature of true crime is inherently political.
And I don't think that human rights is.
I don't think human rights are political, but people want to make them that way, and we will never shut up about those.
No.
Never.
Because I fucking care about you guys. That's why.
I love people, and I want everybody to have an equal opportunity to enjoy the beautiful world that we live in.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
I don't know why that's political.
I don't know why that's
fucking
weird.
It's making it weird.
It is. Y'all making it weird. Don't do that. It's not political to me, but I understand that talking heads on TV like to make it that way. But let's all take a step back and just want the nice things for everybody. That's what I want. Nice things.
Fucking
for
nice
everybody.
things.
If I got political on here, ain't nobody would listen to me, and y'all think I'd need to be in a rubber room. I am not political. I'm like an anarchist.
Anti-political.
And yes, I know anarchy isn't viable, but I would just like to go feral. Aren't you sick of being nice?
Least for like a week or two.
Wouldn't you like to go ape shit?
A little bit. Not forever.
Just want to throw some bricks and shit that's
girl,
on
I
fire.
do.
I'm not going to the federal agent that's listening to me right now.
No, but I would love to work on a Hollywood set
Yes,
for like
I
an
would.
after party scene and just destroy
break
a
it?
room. Yeah, I want to fucking do that so bad.
I just want to light something important on fire. See, that's nuts. So that's why I don't discuss politics on here, because mine are too extreme and no one wants to hear it.
Yeah, same.
I'm just going to come off like a preachy bitch.
Yeah.
And nobody likes that, I've
I just
learned.
think everything's racist. I'm like, that's racist. That's fucking racist.
Because like once you start noticing things, like, and you notice the systemic quality of like both misogyny and racism,
Right.
you're just like, wow, it's everywhere.
It's
God
everything.
damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm rambling now. I just want to say too that, and I say this every time, if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, please know you're appreciated, and we're very, very grateful for you, because you didn't have to listen.
No.
You could have chosen a million other podcasts, but you chose this one.
And most people in our lives have not listened to us.
We do not get the support that we deserve, frankly.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But because I don't know about y'all, but if you ever try and get your family excited like about a project you're doing, they're always just like,
Or to listen to you about any fucking thing that you have to say.
yeah, maybe y'all, hey, if y'all have beautiful, wonderful families who are supportive, bless you, but we just don't have that here.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard to do it alone. That's why we try and form little micro communities so we can all help each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We're all adopted
And one
families.
last bit, because I know this has been a little extra long, but one last bit before I go. Doing the little good, like I try to do every month. I'm going to be listing some people that could use some help this month.
Yes.
I have a couple. One is a single mom, and she's trying her best, but they got hit with car repairs and a bunch of other expenses. Her daughter's getting ready to have a baby. Let's see if we can help some folks out.
Yeah.
So if you have a few bucks to toss their way, it would be most appreciated. Nobody should have to sit there and cry between car repair and dinner.
Yeah.
That should just not be a world. That's not a world I want to live in.
And if we all have an extra dollar,
Yes.
one extra dollar, we can all put it together and help somebody.
In fact, I'll
That's
tell
beautiful.
you what, if in lieu of a review, if you want to donate a little bit of money, I will put you in a drawing too for that. So just screenshot that kind of stuff and send it to me, and let's do some nice things. It
Yeah.
feels good to help, in my opinion, and I wish I could help more than I do. One day. That's sad that my dream is just like...
I literally just want to help people.
I just want to help my friends. I don't want to sit here and watch Willow be stressed out. It's the worst because Willow is small. And
If I were bigger, it wouldn't be a big deal, but
I'd be
am
like,
small.
that big bitch can handle it. That's how I feel about myself.
She's just a little Teletubby over there.
She's a little hobbit. She don't
Yeah.
know what's going on. She's just looking for her second breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, where's the
Bottle
third
feeding
one?
kittens and
Yeah, we're just,
Yeah.
we're besieged by... People need to quit dumping cats on this
Yeah.
road. Anyway, hey, I love you all. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll see you next time.
bye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.